The Canadian Wild Turkey Federation presents
Turkey Talk
with your hosts, the guys that keep it real. From the Real Outdoor Experience, it's Carlin Riley and Ian McCleary. Stay tuned, folks. We discuss way more than just turkey hunting tips and tricks. If conservation, protection, and enhancement of the outdoors is important to you, you have come to the right place. It's go time.
3, 2, 1, let's go.
Hi, everybody. It's Carlin and Ian from the Real Outdoor Experience. Welcome to the CWTF's Turkey Talk. Today, we have our great friends from Federal's Trigger Effect, Kent Michie and Duane Trumbley. So pleased to have you guys. We've spent time with you guys out in the field hunting and again, back at the cabin, kibitzing and enjoying life and back and forth on emails in this busy world. Folks, these guys are great, real down-to-earth dudes. Kent Michie was born and raised in rural Manitoba, where we were last, I guess that was 2 years ago. Kent lives in a very small town, and we can attest to that. It is a very, very small town. And you know what? He's a Canadian dude, loves hockey, which enabled him to attend North Dakota State University on a scholarship years ago. And that's where he got his applied sciences degree in wildlife and fisheries. Now, Kent he was a guide, professional big game guide in Western Canada for years. And then in BC, Kent started a successful taxidermy business, which continues to operate today. And you can see some of Kent's mounts in the background there on the video. And folks, there's another shop out back behind Kent's place, and it's full of taxidermy stuff. Awesome taxidermist.
More stuff there.
Yeah, yeah. And Dino, you were born and raised in southern interior British Columbia, and Dean comes from a long line of hunters and fishermen in his family. His grandfather, Smokey, was a pioneer in the hunting, fishing media industry, which is probably where you got your start, I would imagine. And Dean is also a biologist, and, you know, the conservation connection part of Trigger Effect is awesome. And I know Ian wants to talk about that later on in the podcast, so I'll just save that piece. You know, Dean's a hunter, a fisherman, a guide, a professional biologist. There's so many things to cover there. And I'll put all these, I'll put the bios up on the post when I post the podcast. I guess you're looking at it right now if you're watching us. So without further ado, Kent Michie and Duane Trumbley from Federal Trigger Effect.
Hey guys, really great to see you again, and thanks for joining us today.
You bet. Great to join you guys as well.
So, what's on the agenda for this spring as far as turkey hunting goes? Any plans? I know that COVID is kind of messing with a lot of the travel plans, but are there any things that, you know, assuming travel is opened up by May? Do we have anything on the agenda?
Well, you go ahead there, Dean. You started off.
Well, Ken and I have become experts in the last year since COVID has hit of making plans on top of plans. You know, we if you talked to us 2 weeks ago, we had plans, and now we have different plans. So really what we're doing is we're basically buckling down to lock in our own provinces and getting cameramen to film individually with Kent and myself, because without travel, it's just so hard right now. But we do have some turkey hunts planned. I know I'm going to be pursuing some Merriams here in the interior mountains of British Columbia, you know, trying to connect with those. And, you know, Kent is going to be, you know, chasing. Well, they've got a little bit, it's mostly Merriam, but they have Easterns and mixed hybrids and pretty much every other kind of thing you can think of in Manitoba. But I'm curious, Kent, on how much your birds are going to survive, considering some of the temperatures I've seen there.
Yeah, well, we've had a real bad stretch of Arctic air, as most of Canada has in the past week or so. But we were down to minus 52 at the wheel, and basically, I know that being cooped up as long as I have all winter long with this COVID restrictions, those turkeys that we released, I think it's almost 5 years ago now. The numbers are really doing well, and I think one of them is gonna find himself in my oven here later in the summer, because I'm definitely going out to hunt some turkeys here right at home, which is awesome because of the restrictions of the travel. It's so nice to be able to just go right out my door here and hunt turkeys.
That was one of the questions that I had. I knew that there is a pretty decent Merriam's population in the Kelowna-Kamloops corridor of BC. And is that spreading, Dean, or is that have I got that information wrong?
Well, you've got the information right. You got the wrong location. Most of our turkeys are in the Kootenays, in what they call the Columbia Trench. They do extend a little bit into the Okanagan, down around Rock Creek and stuff like that. They were natural migrants and introduced from the U.S. Our populations should be doing great, but unfortunately, the BC government has deemed wild turkeys as an invasive species. So our management of turkeys basically consists of the fact we have no tag system, no reporting system. They have really loose knit seasons. You're allowed to take a turkey in the spring and a turkey in the fall. But with no tag system, it's absolutely impossible to track it. So I would say our birds populations are probably stable, declining, and until our government shifts their mentality on looking at them as a valued resource, expansion is pretty much impossible for them. As a matter of fact, it's hard for them to even keep a stable population in the areas that they exist.
I don't believe that I've ever heard of turkeys being called an invasive species before.
That blows my mind.
Well, I'll tell you right now, Kent and I are baffled by it. And I mean, both of us having biology backgrounds, plus, we've hunted wild turkey our whole life. I'm familiar with turkey biology. The amount of research out there because of organizations like National Wild Turkey Federation, Canadian Wild Turkey Federation. I think British Columbia is the only place in all of North America that literally looks at wild turkey as invasive. And they come up with all kinds of excuses. And there's so much research out there rebuting their excuses, but BC is an anomaly when it comes to wildlife management, and I know Kent will attest to that.
Well, one of the things I wanted to mention is, like, Dean and I hunted turkeys, it's got to be 25 years ago, back in the Creston Cranbrook area, and back then they actually had a draw system. It was a limited entry draw system for turkeys. You couldn't just buy a turkey tag over the counter. You had to apply, get drawn for the area, and then go buy your turkey tag. And for some reason, the provincial government decided, oh no, they're not a valued wildlife resource anymore. They're an invasive species. So let's just open up the floodgates and have at her. And it's so ridiculous. I mean, it's like going backwards. I can't believe it.
To treat
hey guys, can I add a clarification?
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, can I add a clarification on Kent's comment there, guys?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, he actually meant 2.5 years ago, not 25 years ago, because we're not that old.
Not that we're aging anybody here, but I can't believe that turkey in BC is basically like coyote or raccoon here. It's just, actually, there's a season on raccoon here. So it's, that blows my mind. Now, what are people, is there groups out there that are trying to change this, or how can people help change this so that us as hunters, the conservationists, can support these populations and help them into the future? And I know CWTF can help, but is there a group that people should contact other than the CWTF?
It's one of the reasons Kent and I both been kind of pushing to get chapters in BC for CWTF, and Richard Tipper, who has set up a chapter here. Guys like Duane Schaffer have also stepped up. But we have a kind of unique problem here in BC, is that in places like Ontario and Manitoba, where there's kind of a turkey hunting mentality, more so Ontario than Manitoba. The general populace of hunters sees a benefit in that. The problem in BC is we're a big game province, And wild turkey is not heavily sought after here. I mean, there's literally just small pockets of turkey hunters here and there, and so that mentality is not here. So a lot of our bigger organizations like BC Wildlife Federation, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, those types of things, their focus is very specific on big game. It is not focused on wild turkey. So we've been really kind of pushing to get CWTF chapters here to give our turkeys a voice. But as of right now, it's a tough thing. Like, people are more worried about mule deer and moose populations and elk. And honestly, they really couldn't care too much about turkey.
That is interesting, considering the lower 48 states all being so active in the management of their turkey resources, and the rest of Canada struggling to reintroduce turkeys. And we're trying to get turkey seasons in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia now. Ontario and Quebec have been doing great for the last 20-25 years, but it was actually just one of the Conservation Connection pieces that talks about wildlife being a public trust, and it has to be managed by the government, the entity that we rely on to I guess ensure that we've got those populations moving forward. It's interesting to hear that we're sort of struggling with that in BC right now.
Yeah, it's really funny because I have so much admiration for Manitoba. As you guys know, I spent a lot of time out there. It's like my second home, hunting with Kent. I've been there for 2.5 years. His government, it was amazing. Like, when Kent said, hey, we want to look at introducing turkeys into my area. I mean, the government opened their arms. His wildlife club opened their arms. And, here we are 5 years later. And now when Kent and I go hunt deer in his area, there's turkey running everywhere. I phone the government and say, hey, you guys are missing out. Turkey are not an impact. There's many studies out there, everything like that. Literally, their response is, I'm sorry, they're an invasive species, and our preference is to see them terminated. Managed to zero, and that's what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? That's unfortunate to hear, but hopefully that we do wind up with a switch there, and we get to see some turkey hunting in BC for another 2.5 years. We can all enjoy it.
Yeah.
So, Dean, I had a question about smoky. When everybody looks, but certainly not everybody, but a large number of us, when we were growing up, we had mentors that taught us to hunt and fish. And I know that you talked about smoky before, and it was you came from an outdoors family, but what was Smoky's part of that?
Yeah, my grandfather is probably, he is the biggest influence on all of the Trumbleys when it comes to hunting. He moved from, the prairies to BC after the World War II. And my grandfather always had a passion for the wild. And he, at a time of, Red Fisher, I don't know if anybody remembers good old Red Fisher, but hunting shows were not even mainstream. I think Red Fisher was one of the first ones to come out, and my grandfather did some guest guiding. He was known as his Indian guide on the series. And after that little bit of a stint, it really drove my grandfather to want to bring hunting to the mainstream. And at that time, really the mainstream for a lot of the interior BC was via radio and newspapers. And so that's what he started doing. He started having a weekly news column in the various newspapers throughout the Okanagan. He had I think it was bi-weekly, twice a week. He had what was called Smoke in the Country. And I remember, back then the technology was pretty, horrible. And he had this radio set up in the cab of his truck, and we'd be out hunting. And when it got close to his airtime, we'd have to drive around to clear cut top of mountains so that the signal thing would be big enough. And from there, he would connect live with Frank Martina on CJIB and give hunting and fishing reports from the mountain. And that's what I grew up with. And to me, hunting was just a part of life, and it was normal. And I know even Kent, because, Kent came out guiding when he was quite young and caught the tail end of some of my grandfather's career, and he did, some TV stints as well too, but massive influence. And I think that, for me, it wasn't the influence of, for me to hunt. It's for me to share the lifestyle with people. And that was the passion of my grandfathers, and that's what drove the passion for me.
Right on. Ken, how about you? How did you get involved in the outdoors so passionately?
Well, it was longer than 2.5 years ago, but we
Four and a half, yeah.
I started at a very, very young age. Like, I mean, some of my most treasured pictures are of my dad and my uncle Frank when they were young men. And I remember growing up in that environment with the hunting camps and the deer hunting and the waterfowl hunting and coyote hunting and all of that, trapping, snaring, all of that stuff was laid out for me because my family was involved. I had most of my relatives were involved in it. So it was just a natural path for me to follow. And with such a love for that outdoors, that's the pursuit that I took when I was playing hockey, that I wanted to go to a institute that offered wildlife and fisheries type education, because that's what I wanted to do. So, I mean, I was brought up with it just like Dean was, and I consider it a blessed childhood and raising. It's been.
Ken, how did you wind up as a guide in was it the Yukon or northern BC?
Mostly in northern British Columbia, right along the Yukon border. I guided in most of Western Canada, right from Manitoba all the way through. But most of my career of guiding was done in northern British Columbia. And I got started, I had a great uncle, family relative that had a fishing lodge in the north, and kind of idolized him through my childhood. And basically, I just said, I want to do this. And this was pre-internet and being able to email and all this. I started phoning around. I talked to some people. I got the name of a few outfitters, and I basically went and gave an on-phone interview with the resume and was hired, and drove all the way to mile 747 on the Alaska Highway. My very first year, I remember getting paid $40 a day. I mean, you can't even put that gas money in your truck now for $40. It doesn't even get you around town. But I mean, that's how I started back in the mid 80s, started guiding and working for an outfitter. And it was tough. I mean, it was rugged, and I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. But as Dean can attest, I'm pretty stubborn. And I said, I'm going to make this work. And by the time year 2 or 3 rolled around, I knew I had a career. This is what I wanted to do, and I stayed with it. There was many opportunities where I could have maybe worked an outfit or bought an outfit, but I wanted to stay just as a guide. I wanted to be the guy in the field with the clients. I didn't want to run a business. I just wanted to guide. So I became kind of what you would call a professional guide, and I tramped around from northern BC to Alberta to southern BC to Saskatchewan, and kept myself in a guiding camp for close to 10 months out of the year. I was away from home a lot.
Between the two of you, yeah, no kidding. And I can see that actually with both of you wanting to, being the sharers that you are, Kent, that does fit with being a guide, because you want to be beside people when they're actually,
Yeah. Well, for sure. I mean, like I've documented as much as I could throughout those years with photographs and stuff like that. And to me, that's my trophy. The client got to take his or her animals home at the end of the hunt, but those pictures and those memories are my trophies for that experience and that hunt. And like Dean had said, with that mentality, this is why we started the TV show, because we just love sharing this with everybody.
But for the most part, a lot of your clients were really good, fun people and, sharing passions, but I'll bet you came across some challenging individuals through your career. Are there any sort of hair-raising moments or situations that were kind of sort of difficult to get through that you can recall?
Well, one really comes to mind. I won't mention his name because I don't know, he might still be alive, and you never know. But this man came on a hunt, and I mean, I was in my prime. I was in my, say, late 20s. I had it dialed in. I knew what I was doing. And he came in on a hunt in northern BC, and he got what we call the big five. He got a stone sheep, a mountain goat, a moose, a caribou, and a grizzly.
Wow.
And he got all of that in less than 15 days, and had the gall, because at that time the technology was pretty primitive. Our communications with base camp were not that great. So like, I stayed in the hunting camp. He would fly back to base camp. When he got back, he complained to the outfitter, to the point the outfitter offered him a free hunt for the following year. And his trophies were still in my camp. And he complained so bad. I told the outfitter that at the end of the season, when I got to base camp, I said, if that man books a hunt with you again, I quit. I will never guide that man again. I would walk out of the wilderness. I was not going to guide that man. But I mean, yeah, you can run across some crazy people, but 99% of the people are absolutely like the rest of us. They're there to enjoy the experience, and I was happy to share it with them.
That's funny.
awesome.
I kind of like meeting people like that, because if it wasn't for people like that, Kent, guys like you wouldn't be that special. So
Yeah, well, he was a special client, all right.
Nice. Dino, can we circle back? You had mentioned in southern Manitoba that you had Easterns, Merriams, and hybrids. I'm interested about
Kent's got a unique area there. I mean, the majority of his birds are Merriams, but there is a small leakage of Easterns in the southern portion of the province, and as a result of that, there's hybrids there as well too. And Kent and I have been pursuing hybrids. Like, him and I both want to get hybrids. We've never been able to achieve it yet. Our cameraman Trent Headley, we take him out twice, and the bugger goes and shoots two hybrids each time, or like one hybrid each time. So he's gotten two of them. So, but yeah, it's kind of a unique area that way, because there is a small overlap of the two populations, and there has been evidence of hybrids. And I'm sure if you go onto our Facebook or our website and go way back, because I think that was Kent around season 2, season 3.
Yeah, I think so.
You can see pictures of Trent's hybrids, and it's a pretty cool thing.
what do they look
in
like?
those
I've
videos.
never even heard of something like that.
You have to, it's really fine details when you look at the hybrids. Like, it's not like they're, like, I know sometimes in BC we get whitetail mule deer hybrids, and you can really tell the differences. But what it is usually it's dominant Merriam with some minor Eastern characteristics, or vice versa. And if you look at Trent's two birds, you have a look at them and you'll go, oh, that's a Merriam. But then you look and you go, no, wait a second, that one band is like dark and it shouldn't be, right? So it's not like it's, they specifically look like this. It's just they hide characteristics of each.
Would they be sterile, like a splake, or, the donkey horse crosses? Like,
Not from what we can tell. It looks like they're breeding just like a wild turkey of any breed.
okay. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a little different with birds, because if you look at the actual genetic variation between turkey subspecies, it's not very much. Whereas, and you're totally right, Ian. Like, on big game, the hybrids are sterile. Like, even our whitetail and mule deer, when they breed, the hybridized result is sterile, and that's just for protecting. That's nature's way of protecting genetics, right? But I think the turkeys are a little bit different.
Okay.
Nature loves the turkey.
Yeah. With the opportunities that you guys have had in Africa and New Zealand and South America, North America, is it possible to come up with a favorite continent first and foremost, outside of home, and then a favorite species?
Oh boy, we get asked this a lot, Kent?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I know my hands down favorite place. If I had to pick up everything here and move away and had only one continent to hunt on again, I would hands down for sure say New Zealand.
I knew it.
It, it if you're a big game hunter and even a bird hunter, I mean, they have turkeys there too. They've got waterfowl. But as far as big game hunting goes, if you had one destination outside of your home territory to experience another hunt in, I would say New Zealand is by far your best bang for your buck, and you will be blown away at what a target rich environment it is. I mean, it's hard to describe. It really is.
It's another kind of good example of invasive species, right? Because virtually everything on New Zealand is invasive, and it's my understanding no tag limits, no seasons. It's kind of a free for all. Like even from anybody outside of New Zealand can just go to New Zealand and hunt 365, right? Like
Yeah.
And there's sheep, there's chamois, there's red stags, wallabies, like you can hunt whenever you want.
They've actually New Zealand is called the bird island because basically it had no big game animals on it. It was basically just birds, and that's why most of the birds or some of the birds there evolved to be flightless because they had no natural predators. A prime example of how good the habitat is in New Zealand is, I think it was back in the early 1900s. They introduced 11 Himalayan tahr, 11 animals. That's it. And they're in the tens of thousands now from those original 11 stock. I mean, with no predators and absolutely pristine habitat, they have flourished to the point that there is commercial hunting done in New Zealand, and that is to just keep the numbers in check. That is to help balance out the fact that there's no natural predators.
That's crazy. That is
I can't even wrap my head around what that would be like as a, just coming from Canada, where we are, rightly so, but heavily, monitored and controlled when it comes to our hunting opportunities. To be able to go to a spot where you literally can, because there's quite a bit of public land there, also, right?
Yes, there is.
And you can just go to your public land and have at her. Is that something you'd recommend to people, or should they go with an outfitter, or what would that look like?
There's so many good people there. That's another reason New Zealand is high on my list. I mean, the people are so like Canadians. I mean, they talk a little funny, but they are such gracious hosts, and there's so many good people there. They will take you out. I wouldn't recommend going on your own. Those mountains are severe. They're treacherous. You should go with somebody local, and there's many good outfitters you can choose from. I mean, we've been with several, and we recommend them highly, like absolutely bar none, top-notch people.
You guys have an outfitters tab on the website if anybody's interested. Just check that out. Now, Kent, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I remember you saying it's a game-rich environment, and I think you said that a couple times. Was that your red stag, the show that you had the red stag on from New Zealand? Have I got the right episode there?
Well, Dean and I have both hunted red stag in New Zealand. I was there twice, and basically I got a red stag with my bow and a red stag with my rifle. Dean shot a slammer of a red stag the last time we went. I mean, just an absolute monster, over 500 scoreable inches of antler on him. I mean, it was just an absolutely phenomenal creature. But yeah, there's some big red stag there and on public land. And so when I say target rich environment, there's spots there where Dean and I, when we were there on the one trip, we actually sat on a hill and we decided we would try and glass. and see if we could find a mountainside or a valley or a slope that didn't have anything on it. And after about an hour, we gave up. It was just, you looked in any direction, you would see something. It might not be the target species you're after or anything that you want to hunt, but there's animals everywhere. It's unbelievable.
And in most shows, they're sitting there glassing to find an animal.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Dean, what about you? What's your do you have a favorite species or area to hunt?
So I'm assuming you mean if I couldn't hunt here, but I'd have to have a little bit more complex answer than Kent, because if I look at it from, a home aspect and a hunting aspect, I would be the same as Kent. I'd pick New Zealand only because, again, it's an amazing hunt. And the people are very much like Canada. But if I was to look at it from a biologist aspect and a hunter aspect, hands down, I'd have to pick Africa. And the main reason is just the biodiversity there is so phenomenal. The ecological relationships is so complex. Africa is very similar to like British Columbia. They have so many different biogeological zones there. For me, from an educational perspective and wanting to hunt, I would just get lost in Africa because as a biologist, it's everything you dream about when you go to university to do research on animals. So, but favorite animal to hunt, and it may surprise a lot of people, but even though I've shot, I couldn't even tell you how many, but growing up as a kid in British Columbia, mule deer was a staple food source. And as a result of that, I've developed an intimate relationship with mule deer. I mean, that's what I specialized in as a research biologist. Mule deer by far, it would be my favorite to hunt. And I think it's not so much because of the type of hunter, it's just the animal itself. I'm very connected to it. So.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I can relate, coming from Ontario, and never having the opportunity to hunt mule deer, very, very high on my list, as you know.
Yeah.
When, growing up, you think of places like Africa as being, that's everybody's bucket list, I think, when they start to think about hunting beyond their local environments. And I think that some of the things that's shying me away from Africa right now are the high fenced areas and just not really understanding the local climates. Like going with outfitters and being in a high fenced area, it seems more like shooting as opposed to hunting. But I don't know if that's really fair to what hunting in Africa is like today.
I think I'd like to address that, Ian, if you could, because I think there's a lot of misconception around Africa. The high fences that they have there, first of all, are places that are sometimes bigger than, we have counties. They are 50 to 100,000 hectares of land. Also understanding that the high fences were not put in for hunting purposes. It was a part of their conservation and management regime due to poaching. And what happened is that poaching was so widespread, and a lot of people don't realize this, that if you go back as short as 75 years ago, the majority of species in Africa were almost hunted to extinction. And even common ones that we hear of, like giraffes and wildebeest and stuff like that. And it's because it was a free-for-all on a continent that had no value attached to their wildlife and the biggest, most dense population of human beings on the planet. And so what happened is Africa realized that we got to do something or we're going to become a continent of just humans. And so they implemented various wildlife management strategies by going to landowners and saying, hey, if we give you these massive tracts of land, we're going to fence them off to prevent people from coming in, and also so that you can monitor your numbers within your fences. And, you can also supplement populations to help keep it. And it was a management strategy put in place that now the species numbers in Africa are the highest they've ever been, even prior to the big hunts that hit back 75 years ago. So I can tell you confidently from being to Africa, and Kent and I are scheduled to go again twice coming up to East Cape and Namibia. The problem is a lot of people have bought into the fish in a barrel type thing. Like you walk into this 1 acre plot and there's 800 animals in there and you pick your animal. That is not Africa. I mean, it is wild. It is huge. You are hunting animals who are predated on by some of the biggest apex predators in the world, and they are smart. And, Kent and I, on our trip to South Africa in Lapahale area in Limpopo, I think Kent and I saw a fence on the property we were hunting maybe twice in a 14-day hunt. It's massive tracts of land. So the reality is, if they didn't have those fences, poaching would be a major issue, and the populations wouldn't be what they are right now. And the admirable thing is that even though Kent and I go there and you pay per animal, the majority of that money, although the outfitter does get some, a lot of that money goes into their conservation and management programs for things like rhino, poacher, anti-poacher, all that kind of stuff. It's an amazing system, and I will say, as a research biologist of 30-some years, Africa is the best conservation and management system in the world, hands down. It is the best.
That's actually great context, and thanks for sharing. Actually, because that does address a lot of the preconceived notions that I think a lot of people have when they think of hunting Africa. Do you also have, I should know that, but on your on the Trigger Effects page, do you have recommendations for African outfitters?
Yeah, we do. We've got everywhere that we've gone. We list the outfitters that we go with. I mean, 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, the guys that we hunt with have got it dialed in, and we've got several African outfitters that we're hunting with that have amazing locations, amazing lodges, and they've got something for everybody. I mean, the place that Dean had mentioned earlier, the East Cape, we're hoping to take our spouses with us. It's a couples retreat, and they've got all kinds of different activities outside of the hunting realm that the ladies can enjoy while we're there. So it's not just a hunting mecca, it's a travel destination for the entire family, and we do list all those guys on our website.
No, that's fantastic.
That's triggereffect.tv, so check that out. Dino, I know we were talking when we were hanging out there in Manitoba a couple of years ago about Africa, the hunting, and I want to talk about the conservation piece about hunters and conservationists, because you made some really great points there. But I just want to briefly cover that all these outfitters employ so many people in that area, and not only just the guides, but the cooks, the cleaners, and can you touch on that a little bit, just so people know about how that all impacts the local economies?
Yeah, Kent and I think the best way is I'm going to use the words of a good friend of ours over there. When Kent and I were hunting, we had a tracker. His name was Raymond. And the one evening, Kent and I were sitting down, and, we noticed that like a lot of the, indigenous people of the area, aren't doing the hunting. They're doing the tracking, the guiding, the skinning and stuff like that. So we asked Raymond and said, does it bug you? Like, I mean, you have all these North Americans and Europeans coming in and hunting, and, and you guys aren't able to hunt in that. And he actually gave me a response that I think still to this day was probably one of the biggest impacts on Kent in my life, in opening our eyes and realizing that North America doesn't set the standard, and we don't understand everything. And he just said, you know what? He says, I do hunt. I get to hunt every day. And he says, the only thing you're doing is pulling the trigger. I'm doing all the hunting. I'm doing all the tracking. I'm doing what I love, and I get paid for it. And he says, before, he said, we hunted because we were starving to death, and we were killing the animals and just eating the meat. But he says, with the system they have in place now, he says, the women who work here are from my village, that do all the housekeeping, the cooking, the cleaning. Some of them do guiding and tracking as well. He says, all my friends are guides and trackers here, and skinners, all get paid. And he says, we all get to do what we love, which is, and it is true, because let's face it, for all of us as hunters, the pulling the trigger part although exhilarating isn't why we do it. You know, it's the whole story beforehand is why we do it. And they get to do that and they get paid for it. And he just says, I love it that you guys come over here, because as a result of it now they have money, and all of the meat has to go to the communities. I mean, some of the meat was cut off for, you know, Kent and I to try it. I mean, we had wild game every night so we could sample it, but you know, so they get the end product, which is the hunting and the meat, but they get so much more. And, you know, Kent and I walked away pretty humbled on it, because, you know, we're like, wow, like, you know, as hunters, we're not just funding conservation and management, but we're allowing the Indigenous people to live in the world that they love, you know, which is, you know, hunter-gatherer lifestyle.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
I'd like to expand on that a little bit there, Dean. Also, the lodge owners that we've hunted with in Africa, a prime example of that is our good friend Jan. He built a small dwellings and village where Raymond and Samuel and all the trackers and skinners that work for him, they bring their families there. And he's expanded it to the point where he built them all houses. They all get paid. Like Dean said, the women help with the cleaning, the gardening, some of the guiding and maintenance and so on and so forth. The men do their part. But he also hired a guy from the village to drive a school bus. And him and some of the other lodge owners in the area built a schoolhouse. And he said that if you work for me, your children are going to learn to read and write, and they're going to be educated. So this school bus goes between 3 or 4 different lodge owners in the area, picks up all the kids every morning, takes them to school and back again. And this is stuff that they would not get from their own village. And that only comes from conservation dollars and hunting dollars. I mean, the only reason he can afford to do that is because Americans, Canadians, and Europeans are going there to visit and hunt.
Wish we heard more stories like that than, you know, the Cecil type stories that you wind up hearing, you know. And that's unfortunately there is a PR problem when it comes to the hunting communities, and certainly in the international hunts. But that's such a great story, and thanks so much for sharing.
That's what Turkey Talk's all about, to get these stories out. And I just wanted to circle back to that conservation piece again, though. Without the hunters coming into Africa, the species would be virtually eliminated.
Yeah.
Well, because you got to think about it, Carlin. Like, I mean, there, you know, in Canada, we have mining, we have forestry, we have, you know, like we have a lot of those types of natural resources that drive our economies, right? In Africa, they don't have a lot of those natural resources. I mean, they do have gems and stuff like that, but not to the scale that would be able to support a country. And when you look at places, especially like Namibia and Botswana, you know, and South Africa, I mean, their main economies are the hunting industry. You know, it's a massive economy over there, and it's literally provided massive amounts of infrastructure, and that's the issue people are so ignorant to, you know, and it's one of the reasons we get so frustrated when we hear people making assumptions of Africa, because when you go there, you realize the importance of hunting. And Carlin, you touched on a good thing too that I do want to expand on about Africa, or maybe it was Ian, I can't remember, but as a hunter, you have to experience it. It's not even just about the amount of animals. It's because Africa is about old style hunting. You know, it's about the days of kings and queens. It's about the days of princes, you know, that used to come there. Royalty used to come there, you know, lords and stuff like that. And when you go there, that's the experience you get. You know, like hunting is almost a ritualistic thing. You know, it's not, you know, like us where you go out for a hobby. I mean, to them, there's a, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but like Kent and I both talked about it. Like, it's like when you step off that plane, you're immersed in the true genesis of hunting. And it impacts you. It really does. You wake up and go to bed living, breathing, and eating hunting. And it's that experience itself is worth Africa, let alone the trophies. I hate trophies, but the memories that you make, you know, it's hard to explain. And when people say to you, once you go to Africa, you're bit, it's because of that. It's not because of the game. It's because of as a hunter, it's almost like you're brought back, to a state of when hunting was an honor to do. And that's really what Africa is all about.
I would love to experience being inside a Robert Ruark novel.
Yeah.
It is.
Absolutely.
I think the word Dean was looking for is you are immersed in a true hunting culture there. Like it is part of their culture, and you don't feel it until you get there and experience it. And like Dean said, once you're bit, I've had many of my past clients say, "Oh, once you go to Africa, you'll never want to. You want to go every year." And I was like, yeah, I like to try new things. And they're so right. I mean, I would go to Africa every year. I would. I mean, there's so much there, and it is a true culture.
Oh, that's awesome. Carlin, you had a point there?
Yeah, I just wondered if it's because North American culture is more about convenience and more about the grocery stores and less about understanding where we came as humans, where we came from as humans, hunter gatherers, and being one with the earth and treating the earth, like it should be treated, as opposed to, most people don't even know where the beef that they're buying at the grocery store comes from. So I'm just assuming, I've never been to Africa, but it sounds like that most people there are in touch with how that whole system works, and more so the old ways.
I think it's partly that, definitely. But I think, and I'm sure Kent will agree with me on this, but when you look at the way hunting is, and especially the outfitting industry, the focus is basically on the animal itself. And you see this all the time when you go to, websites or, hunting groups and everything like that. It's all about, the hero picture. It's all about, but when you go into Africa, they look at hunting very different. We look at it as a pursuit to get an animal, whereas they look at hunting from the moment you step off that plane to the moment you step back on it. It's an experience, and you really see that, like the professional hunters, the skinners, the guides, everybody. No one's talking about, oh, you're going to go get a big wildebeest, or oh, you're going to go shoot a big hartebeest, or whatever.
What would that score?
What would that score? They don't. It's not even that. It literally, from when you wake up, everybody is going out of their way to make you feel special and immersed in that hunting experience. And, from eating outside to being served wild game to hunting stories to, having their lodges where they're literally built, to look like you're, back, in mud huts and hunting out of them type thing. Like, that's the difference. The difference there is the animal to them is 5% of the hunt and the experience is 90. Whereas in North America, the animal's 90% of the hunt and the experience is 5%. And that's why when you're a hardcore hunter and you finally have the chance to get over to Africa, it opens your eyes. And I'll say I am a better hunter as a result of my experience in Africa.
Wow. No, that's definitely one of my bucket list hunts for sure. Speaking of bucket lists, like, you guys have had opportunities to hunt literally all over the world. What's on your bucket lists now?
Getting past COVID.
Yep. Those are goals for sure.
Yeah, no, you know what? We all have fantasies and we all have bucket list species, and Dean and I have been so fortunate with the great work with our sponsors and outfitters that we deal with through this TV show that we've been able to check a few of them off the list. It's hard to say what's on the list. I know what I would love to do, but it's one of those things that it's going to be a struggle with, especially with COVID and so on. But I mean, Dean and I have gotten to the point now that it's not so much like he had said earlier, like South Africa and how it's changed us and our view. It's not so much what the species is. Now, what's important to us is putting together good television and good entertaining shows for the viewers. And it has taken a lot of pressure off of us with that mindset now, that it's not about the trophies. I mean, we all have them, and I use that term loosely because basically this is a memory for me. It's not like an achieved trophy, but I would have to say for Dean and I can probably speak for him on this. Our next bucket list items is going to be in Africa again. We want to get back to that continent. The dark continent is something to behold. It is truly something that no one will ever forget, and you can never take it away from those who have experienced it.
Is there a species there that you're thinking of as you're imagining those hunts?
Well, of course, like I'm a bit of a risk taker. Like one of my North American animals I want to get is a brown bear, but that's going to be a tough one to get. But I would love to go after a Cape buffalo. I don't know if that's going to be on the docket, but I kind of like the fact knowing that I'm not top of the food chain anymore, and it's kind of exhilarating. And maybe that's the way I'm going to meet my maker is through one of those experiences. But hey, it beats other ways of going.
Oh.
Yeah, better that than on a golf course, I'm thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Getting struck by lightning or something.
Yeah, I think the point that Kent brings up, Ian, is a really good point. Is as a result of our experience in Africa, it's funny. I'll admit, prior to coming on to the TV show, I had bucket lists, and we talked about it all the time. I want to get this, I want to get that, I want to try this, I want to try that. But as a result of Africa, a lot for Kent and I now has shifted from our bucket list being species driven to being experience driven. And I know both Kent and I were dying to hunt in Europe, and we're working on that because if you look at places like Hungary and Spain, it's like Africa. They have this old world culture, where they put the twig in the mouth for the last meal. And, and so I think a lot of our experiences, Kent and I talked about it, is I'm the same as Kent. My bucket list animal, if I had to pick it, would definitely be Cape buffalo for the same reasons as Kent. I like pushing fear and seeing how far I can go. But I would have to say, though, that our higher priority on an animal would be to experience two areas. And Kent and I've talked about it is Europe and that ancient culture of hunting from the European aspect. And Kent and I would love to go to Australia and hunt with the Aborigines because they're much like the African trackers. They're the best in the world, rich culture. And, to go and experience those two types of hunts with those two types of cultures would be incredible.
Wow.
Well, that's Australia is an entirely different ecosystem and set of rules, and hunting. Like I've been to Australia, and hunting is not something that anybody can just up and do there. But there are some pretty neat areas. I got some fishing bucket list stuff going on in Australia.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, and it's funny, like to show Kent my danger, you would think Australia, everybody would want to go after, the species. But I can tell you right now, the top of Kent's my bucket list in Australia is scrub bulls. We'd love to go after scrub bulls.
Yep. And there's like buffalo populations in Australia as well that are a game species that I've seen. But be hunting, it'd be different. Like it's remote. It would be hard, I think.
Yeah, it is. The scrub bulls, the water buffalo, and the bontang, I think is what they call it. It's kind of a wild bull species. Again, they're all dangerous. They're all tough, but it's part of the experience, I guess.
I think the thing about Australia that kind of creeps me out is the number of things that can get you. Like, and it's not just, it's not just a big animal. It could be a snake or a spider or some weird species of caterpillar that you just happen to step on, and suddenly your hunt is wrecked.
Yeah, but we're used to that in Canada because, we've got politicians.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, interesting perspective. If something's going to wreck your hunt, would you rather it be a creature or another creature?
This is a family-friendly show. We can't start the swearing talking about politicians.
Yeah. Well, that's so much fun when you think about that, and I'd certainly hope that there is an end to this friggin' COVID business so that we can get back to traveling and get back to some of the the hunting pursuits that so many of us are just craving right now. Assuming we, well, I just can't even assume that we're going to be able to get out of it anytime soon. I mean, it looks like it's going to be past the spring, but even if that is the case, I'm glad that you guys are going to be able to do some turkey hunting and coyote hunting locally.
It's one of those things that, as much as Dean and I have traveled the world and enjoyed our experiences in Argentina and South Africa and New Zealand, it's one of those things that has made us even more grateful of where we come from. I mean, there's no place like home. And the more we travel the world, the more we love this country of Canada. And we are, as Canadians, truly blessed to be able to have the ability, once COVID restrictions are lifted, to travel from coast to coast. Never have to show a passport to anybody. Abide by the speed limit, and you can drive to 3 different oceans. You can drive to the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and the Arctic Ocean, and never have to show a picture ID to anybody by abiding by the speed limits. There's no country in the world that you can do that in. And we truly are blessed by living here in Canada, and we do have some of the best hunting in the world. Even though we like to travel and experience new places, Canada is pretty awesome that way.
Well, fellas, I think, it's like talking with high school buddies when we get together and when we talk, and I know this conversation can go on forever, but let's circle back just a little bit to turkeys, because it is it's coming up soon, and I definitely have a few questions that I want to share with your answers with the listeners and the viewers. So, what was your favorite turkey hunt, Dean, and why?
Well, that's a tough one because I just love hunting turkeys in general. But if I was to pick one hunt right now, that was my favorite, I would have to say it was the hunt that Kent and I did down in Chihuahua, Mexico for Gould turkeys. And I think it was mainly because it's so different than anything we've experienced hunting turkeys anywhere else in North America. I mean, whether you're hunting Merriam's or Easterns, and even to a certain extent Osceola and Rios, it's kind of habitats that you recognize. Whereas when we flew into the, Chihuahua, Mexico, and it was like a desert, and I mean, Hollywood spaghetti Western desert. Ken and I are thinking, I don't know how anything can survive out here, let alone turkeys. But when we got out there, the amount of Gould turkeys they have and how responsive they are and how vocal they are and just how pretty of a bird they are, because they contrast so much with the habitat. It was just an incredible all-around experience. And again, we got to fly into the heart of, Mexican culture. And, we stayed in a traditional, Mexican hut and traditional food from traditional people. And it was just an amazing experience all around. So mine, hands down, would be Chihuahua, Mexico for Goulds.
Nice. What about you, Kent?
Well, I'm gonna kind of derail this a little bit. My favorite turkey hunt's going to be my next one. No, I have to agree with Dean. I mean, hunting turkeys is a passion and it's a lot of fun. Those that don't hunt turkeys don't understand it.
Truly.
Once you go on your first turkey hunt and do it right, not shoot it with a rifle from 100 yards away. Call him in close and take him with a decoy from a blind or sitting up against a tree. Doing it right, turkey hunting is exciting. But I'd have to agree with Dean that hunting in that exotic area in Chihuahua, Mexico was fantastic, and it'll be hard to beat. But I think maybe a Yucatan Peninsula turkey hunt might top that one.
Yeah,
if we ever get down there.
Get to complete the World Slam.
Yes.
That's the oscillated turkey, right? The blue ones. Yeah, that's my bucket list. Well, it's a barrel list now. It's just so big. Definitely on there. Carlin, did you have you had another question there, I think?
I have many questions, but let's see.
I had
yeah.
a question for you guys in terms of the CWTF in BC. I know, Dean, you mentioned Richard Tipper, and if people want to reach out to him via Facebook, if they want to get involved with a local chapter, and he is how far is he from Falklands?
He's quite a distance from Falkland. They actually started up north, and there's no turkeys up there, but Richard himself is a very passionate turkey hunter. I had the pleasure actually last spring of hunting with Richard, and I shot him taking a Jake actually, and it was just a really fun experience. Very passionate individual. Another guy who works with Richard is Duane Schaffer, who both Kent and I know. And Duane again is a very passionate hunter. He's more known for bears, but he's a passionate turkey hunter as well. But it's a struggle. Like, I mean, you're trying to find turkey hunters in the province that just doesn't have turkey hunters, and there's not many people who hunt turkey. So. But they are great guys. They are on Facebook. And, if you're from British Columbia, please reach out and join CWTF, because if we don't give these turkeys a voice here, we're not going to have them.
Ken, is there a Brandon chapter? Well, I guess they're not yet, but do you know of anybody that's looking at that? Or
Well, the CWTF has expanded throughout the province. There is the Southwest Strutters that started, and I think it's based out of Winnipeg. But we did have a CWTF banquet in Brandon back when they first moved into Manitoba, and the chapters in Manitoba are actually getting stronger. We've had turkeys in this province. I think, don't quote me because I may be wrong with the numbers and dates, but I'm pretty sure it was 1955, and they brought 17 pairs of turkeys up and let them go in the Pembina Valley south of Winnipeg. And we've had turkeys established in this province since then. Even though there hasn't been hunting since then, it started. And CWTF, once they started up and started to expand into the province, they moved into Manitoba with an already established turkey population, which is really helpful and has done fantastic work here. So the chapters, I'm hoping that they can expand some more chapters, because we definitely need them. Like Dean said, with chapters and with members, it just gives a stronger voice to the turkeys, and we can ensure that these birds will last for generations.
Well, that's such a great point. And listeners, viewers, anybody that is interested in turkey hunting, if you want to get involved, just hop onto the CWTF site and find a local chapter, that attend a banquet, get a membership. It's $35 for a membership, and you get a $25 gift card back from Bass Pro to to get your face mask, your calls, or anything. So it literally costs $10 to join the CWTF, and it certainly does an awful lot for conservation, habitat, and the shooting sports in general. So get involved, check out the CWTF. Carlin, do you have any final thoughts there?
Yeah, I believe, just for our listeners, that this time of year seems to be the time where CWTF's doing the membership drive. So like Ian said, jump on the website. I believe it's cwtf.ca, and check out all the membership options. Without organizations like CWTF and the OFAH, and there's so many throughout Canada. Depends on your province. Some are provincial, some are not federal, but throughout Canada. Check out these organizations, because they are the voice of conservation in Canada, and hunters are the biggest conservationists out there. A lot of people don't think that, people that don't understand hunting, but without our dollars going into the economy, a lot of these animals would not be protected, and we wouldn't have the opportunities to go out and enjoy the great outdoors like we do. So just a couple things, people, check out Hunting the Big Picture and Grounded in Reality. There's two videos. Where are they, Dean? They're on the YouTube channel, your YouTube channel? These videos,
they're on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, these are two awesome videos, and I just want to share them with everybody. That's Hunting the Big Picture and Grounded in Reality, and there are two videos. Well, I'm not going to spoil it. So I know I've watched them a number of times. I enjoy them every time. yeah, I'll just leave it there. So I know time is ticking. Like I said, we can just ramble on forever, but thanks, dudes. Like, it is so good to see you guys again. I'm glad you're healthy. I'm glad that you're staying well, I guess. That's probably where I'll leave it, but I know
Put on COVID weight.
it just kicks
Yeah.
the hell out of
COVID
everybody.
weight going.
Yeah, I got some COVID pounds going on here that I got to start getting off. But thanks so much for coming on. And yeah, Ian, did you have anything that you wanted to add there?
You know what? Just that we asked for an hour of your time. You're, as always, so gracious and sharing your stories. And like Carlin said, we could easily talk for 2 or 3 hours, but trying to be respectful of your time, we'll let you go. But again, it's so good to connect with you. Good to get eyes on you and to see that you are doing well and getting through this the most challenging time that certainly we've experienced recently. So great to see you. Thanks for what you're doing, and I'm certainly looking forward to watching the new series when it does come out. So I guess season 10 you're sort of in the midst of producing right now. So
Yeah.
looking forward to seeing the new videos, guys.
You bet.
Thank you.
Well, you know what? Thanks for having us. The invite is always open. Once the restrictions are lifted, you guys are always welcome to come and join us here. We would love to share another hunt with you, and let's do this again. Let's do some more of these get-togethers, even if it's via Zoom.
That sounds great, man. Sounds great.
Fantastic. And we're going to take you up on that, Kent. So
Dean, where can people find Federal's Trigger Effect?
Oh, we're pretty much everywhere. We have a website, www.triggereffect.tv. We're on all social media platforms. And also new to us now is we are on Amazon Prime Video. And I think right now we're available to over, I think it's about 152 million households in North America and the UK. And it's been a successful launch. Our seasons 5, 6, 7, and 8 are on there. That's over 69 episodes of Trigger Effect. If you're an Amazon Prime person, they're free, so you can watch them. And so we're pretty much anywhere. And Kent and I also have we have full access to us on social media personally, as well as on our website. We love talking to people. We never turn anyone down.
Yeah,
awesome.
Very, very accessible to all of us, and on behalf of everybody, we appreciate it. So all right, fellas, well, listen.
Guys.
Yep.
It has been.
Take care.
I'm so thankful to see your smiling faces. Tune in to Turkey Talk next time, folks. And don't forget, Ian.
As always, keep it real. Thanks, everybody.
Take care for now.
Thanks for staying with us. You have been listening to the Canadian Wild Turkey Federation's Turkey Talk podcast with your hosts, Carlin and Ian from the Real Outdoor Experience. Tune in next time as we have an amazing lineup of both guests and subjects that span across the outdoors. Don't forget, get your kids outdoors, and always keep it real.